What were your thoughts when you saw the Lions team to face the Western Force this Saturday? My thoughts were, well, basically, I pulled the same face that Christian Bale pulls playing Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. Looking at some of those combinations. 9-10, 12-13. Absolutely love it. There is your team. Let me know your thoughts in the chat and I'll be there with you. I'm absolutely buzzing for this because by the time Saturday's game comes around, it will have been 8 days since the last Lions game. But from this Saturday onwards, it's Saturday, Wednesday, drink it in, building up to the test matches against Australia. Really interesting team to look at. It's getting inside Andy Farrell's mind about how he wants to set his team up. He's gone with some differences, both obviously selection, but tactically as well, it feels. And what do we read into that? Again, let me know what you think and I'll be down there with you in the chat. So, first thing to say is there are 2 players who start again, who started against Argentina. And both of those players played basically the whole game as well against Argentina. So that's quite interesting in itself. You got Sione Tuipulotu starting again in the centre, this time in the 12 jersey though, which is absolutely, I think probably the biggest takeaway, well, one of the biggest takeaways from last week was Sione Tuipulotu, unless there's injuries, is not going to be a test match starter at 13. And he should be 12. He looks so much better when he moved to 12. That Aki Tuipulotu combination. I'll be interested to see it again. And Aki actually said after the game he thinks he can get more out of Sione Tuipulotu if he had another go. So we'll see. But glad to see him in the 12 jersey. And alongside Gary Ringrose, that's very cool. And the other player that is continuing from the Argentina game, Tyg Burn, shifted again into a different jersey, 6 this time. And what does that tell us about what Andy Farrell is thinking? I'll go into this in a bit more depth, go through the forwards, go through the backs and the replacements and let me know your thoughts. Some big picture ones. Dan Sheehan, absolutely amazing honour for him. Well deserved. That gives you an insight into the leadership group. Dan Sheehan, clearly one of those senior players that Andy Farrell will have in that little leadership inner sanctum. And, I mean, arguably, Dan Sheehan is the player in the Lions squad whose stock went up the most following that Argentina game, to the moon with how poor the line-out was. And, I mean, that's another thing I'd say. If you can't get the line-out sorted with Scott Cummings, who's the line-out captain for Scotland, Joe McCarthy, who Dan Sheehan has a great relationship with, Tyg Burn in the back row, who is a line-out expert, and then Ollie Chesham on the bench. If you can't sort it out there, then the Lions have got problems. So I fully expect that to be sorted. Right, let me go through the forwards and then the backs and the replacements. In the forwards, so we've got 4 players that have been rotated from the bench to the starting lineup. The 2 props, Schoeman and Furlong, Scott Cummings and Henry Pollock. Really big game for Tyg Furlong, I would suggest. Because, you know, go back a few months and you were thinking he was the automatic selection at tight head prop, or go back 6 months or a year, and you were thinking he could be the most valuable player for the Lions because where else do you go? There isn't anyone. Well, obviously Xander Fagerson. Actually, I'll take that back because of Xander Fagerson. But without Xander Fagerson being available, Tyg Furlong is so important. But Will Stewart's had an incredible year. Finlay Bealham was brilliant against Argentina. And Tyg Furlong, you could argue, you could make a case until he proves his fitness and his class, which I'm sure he will and can. But until he does, he might be currently the 3rd choice tight head prop, potentially. Let me know what you think about that. Pierre Schoeman is probably 3rd choice of the loose head props, where there is a really good stable and good options there. Scott Cummings, Joe McCarthy, a couple of big boppers in the engine room. I like that. And alongside with Tyg Burn in the back row, that is a meteor. That's a heavyweight Lions pack, which I like the look of. And yet, he's still gone for 2 7s in the back row. And I think that is quite revealing. Henry Pollock starts at number 8, Josh van der Fleer at 7. And yeah, I think the fact that heavyweight, but still the 2 flyers, Josh van der Fleer and Henry Pollock, who is a flyer, and I think that's quite interesting. And Henry Pollock, talking about guys that need a big game, if Henry Pollock is going to be a test match Lion, then he needs to have a big game. Because he came into this tour with so much momentum. That performance in the Lions Leinster match in the Champions Cup semi-final got him on the plane to Australia, but did not have a good day against Argentina. Not a great cameo off the bench, and the air just kind of deflated from the balloon a little bit not to say it can't be turned around, and he will want a big game. Fast tracks. Let's see what Henry Pollock can do. Just got to say as well, Josh van der Fleer, so happy for him just being involved in the squad. He looked like he could, particularly with the heat in the back row and all the different options and the potential players that could have gone on tour and the really good players that are going to be sat watching on the sofa. You thought maybe Josh van der Fleer might be a guy who you look back and go, how was he not a British and Irish Lion? But he gets to pull on that jersey for the first time. He'll be targeting a test jersey, but he's there and he's playing. And that's really, really cool. And the same goes for Gary Ringrose. Just an awesome player who had never been a Lion until now. He is. And we need a name as well for, Huey Pilotu could be reunited because Hugh Jones is on the bench. That's cool to see. We've had Aki Pilotu, but we need, so the options, as I see it, Ringrose Pilotu, not a massive fan of. Tua Palingrose, here it is, Gary Pilotu. I'm a fan. And I'm all in. Gary Pilotu, I think, would work in a test series. I think it could well be the way forward. Hugh Jones has got versatility. He could be a number 23 on the bench. He could also start. We're going to get to see that hopefully in the game as well at some point. We will see. But that halfback pairing as well. Now, the injury to Jamison Gibson-Park, slight concern. He's still not picked, not available. Don't know exactly what the situation with his injury is. Hopefully it's not too serious. He's that good of a player. He's worth keeping around with the test series in mind. But Thomas Williams had a brilliant cameo for the Lions against Argentina. And I think it's probably edged himself in the stocks as they stand now. Can all change after Saturday. He's ahead of Alex Mitchell. Maybe the favourite to start as in a test series if Gibson-Park doesn't get back soon. Could happen. And him and Finn Russell, outrageously talented seasons in the Premiership. They can both play that controlling game, but if it goes loose and fast, then no halfback pairing maybe that the Lions have got is better equipped to just play off the hoof. So really excited to see that. And what about that back three? Mac Hansen was great again, just like Williams was really good off the bench with a cameo against Argentina. And he could be another playmaker in the backfield with Finn Russell, Tua Pilotu, Mac Hansen. You've got guys with brilliant distribution. With Elliot Daly and James Lowe, you have got a couple of absolute cannons. Cannonball! They're going to have a little kicking competition between themselves. Who can boot it the furthest? Two massive left feet. And it'll be interesting to see how and if and when and why and where Andy Farrell uses that particular element of the game. It could be a tactical advantage. Bench. Ridiculous. This is what you get with the Lions, isn't it? This is the cool thing about the Lions. Look at that bench. It's insane how good it is. The props, Andrew Porter, Will Stewart. I'd say at the moment they are, that's the shirts. Well, no, they will be involved in a test match. No, in fact, let me say bigger than that. I would say there are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly 6 players who could be starting a test match against Australia, I would say, on that bench of 8. So Ronan Kelleher, one of the backups to Dan Sheehan, he'll want to get himself a spot on the bench if assuming Sheehan will start. Porter could be starting, but I'd say he's probably number 2 loose head behind Genge right now. That can change. Will Stewart's probably favourite to start the test match against the Lions, against Australia for the Lions right now, but he could drop down the pecking order. Ollie Chesham, match day 23, could start 6 or second row. Jack Conan will probably start. Alex Mitchell, maybe battling for the bench. Hugh Jones could start. Marcus Smith could start. Likely bench. We'll see. But one thing I find quite interesting, do you agree with me on this? The fact Marcus Smith is in the number 23 shirt and not the number 22 shirt, do you read anything into that? Am I thinking too much? I do that sometimes. Normally, you have the replacement scrum half 21, replacement fly half 22, and the replacement kind of utility back, outside back 23. But he's gone scrum half, centre, and then number 23. I don't know. Maybe it's 2 and 2 and making 10 or 5 or whatever the phrase is. You know what I'm trying to say. But I just found it interesting, and I think Marcus Smith got absolute pelters from people about a fullback performance. Again, I've watched the Argentina game again. I honestly don't think he was that bad. I think that the Argentina tries were more fundamental errors further up the field, and I don't care which fullback it was, Blair Kinghorn, Hugo Keenan. They weren't stopping Argentina scoring those tries. On the fullback situation, it is interesting, isn't it? There was criticism of Kinghorn being on the tour, despite the fact he wasn't going to be there till week 3 or 4 or however long they've been together, because he's playing in the top 14 final this weekend. The reality is, the way it's going, it could be the case that Blair Kinghorn plays on tour before Hugo Keenan. And that's another concern. Your 2 out-and-out 15s, your only 2 out-and-out 15s, not being available. Elliot Daly is there on this one. Marcus Smith is covered in. Oh, sorry, Patrick Bateman's face again. But that is a bit of a concern. I want to see Jameson Gibson-Park and Hugo Keenan back and training and available and playing soon. But that said, we've got, 6 games? So plenty of time. Plenty of time. And bring on the matches. I like the fact they've put it, final thing I'll say, I like the fact they've put it at a quite reasonable time, 11 a.m. Must be quite late in Australia, that one. I remember previous Australia tours getting up at, having breakfast. Sometimes breakfast and a beer has been known. There we go. There's my thoughts. Tell me yours in the chat, and I'll see you there.